86-year curse. Things were looking pretty gloomy for the Boston Red Sox until the 2004 season changed everything. Good evening and welcome to Boston Balling. I'm your host, Gabby Maljanian, and I had the pleasure of speaking with 2004 World Series champion Doug Mientkiewicz, who was part of that Red Sox team. Now, if you want to hear the first half of this interview, check it out on Locked On Red Sox, which is my daily Boston Red Sox podcast. But you're about to hear the second half of that interview that I had with him. So be sure to stay tuning in. There's just a special feeling that comes with playing in a place like Boston, I feel like, and just that passion and just such a historic franchise and just all the players who have really come through Fenway Park. And you just think about just those players that, you know, you're filling the shoes of that have been with the Boston Red Sox over the years. It's just really cool to think about just how storied of a franchise it really is.
And it takes a special person, it takes a special MO to play in Boston. It really does.
Not everybody can handle it.
I played in New York twice, and I thought playing in New York was way easier than playing in Boston. I don't know if it was because it was the first time I got traded. Excuse me, I was younger. I knew what to expect. I put more pressure on myself in Boston. But I just felt like it was easy. In New York, you can kind of get away, right? In the city, you can kind of get in the city, and you can kind of dodge raindrops a little bit. Boston, there ain't no dodging raindrops in Boston. Like, I remember, granted, I was with David, which makes sense. But, David and I went to dinner one night during the postseason, and we had a day off, and we went and we didn't leave the house till 11 in some small restaurant. And we show up, and there's 100 people waiting outside. I was going, how in the world do they know that? Like, how'd they find that out, that David was going to be there? And that doesn't happen. And you can, it doesn't happen anywhere else. I always say this about a lot of things. I say this about the game. I say this about certain cities. I say this about certain franchises. Like, what makes it hard is what makes it great. Like, if you can win there, it's the greatest part and the greatest thing in the world. But it takes some thick skin to understand that, hey, you better do your job, otherwise you're going to hear it, and it's okay. Like, I even, not to bring up Derek Jeter on a Red Sox podcast, but I thought Derek was always great. I don't get a chance to tell fans what to say. Like, I don't have a right to tell them who to cheer, who to boo. They paid money, and that stuck with me. And I was like, yeah, you know what? I don't like getting booed either, but I can promise you, by the time it took you to boo me, I've been booing myself a lot longer and earlier than you were. Trust me, because no one feels worse about playing bad than I do. Hell, I had my own mom turn the TV off one time, so I can't watch this anymore until you get your shit right. Like, I can't watch anymore. Like, it's not conducive to my health to watch you play this bad. So figure it out, and then we'll try again in a couple of days. So I get it, but I always say this: I wish every player had a chance to put that uniform on one time and see what it was like, and understand the history. Ted Williams, Johnny Pesky, the list goes on and on. And this is like, to be in Fenway every day. It's different when it's your home park. As a visitor, you're like, oh my gosh, the visiting clubhouse is brutal and blah, blah, blah at the time. And you're like, oh, it's 3 miles to home plate. So when you punch out, you got to walk back, and you hear the 6-year-old kid telling you suck, and you're like, you're not wrong. But when it's your home park, it's different. It's history. I said that about the Metrodome. People would be like, oh, I hate the Metrodome. They're like, it's a dump. I'm like, yeah, but when I was a Twin, I was like, it's our dump, and we're going to defend this dump because it's ours. So I get it. I'm not calling Fenway a dump by any stretch of imagination, but you get the history when you walk down the tunnel, and you open up there, and all of a sudden, they don't. It's a beautiful thing when fans don't care if it's Tuesday night and you're facing the A's, or Friday night and you're playing the Yankees. The passion is the same, and you can't argue with that. You can't. I joke with those guys too. I was like, you guys are spoiled. You don't know what it's like to play a noon game in Minneapolis when you play the Royals and there's 9 people there and you hear a guy fart in the upper deck. Like, you don't understand what that's like. Like, you need to understand, like, you guys are spoiled. Oh my gosh, there's only 30,000 people here tonight. Like, get over yourself. Like, then play better. They don't want to come see us lose, so let kick it in gear a little bit. But like I said, I wish every player could feel what it feels like to put a Red Sox jersey on.
Yeah, that's really cool. And I love that you say that, because Boston's such a special place. Obviously, I am biased, I know, but I do feel like from a player perspective, other players that I've spoken to who have played in Boston or do play in Boston, they all say there's just something special about playing for the Boston Red Sox and having your home games at Fenway. And I just feel like there's truly nothing like that.
I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, there's two uniforms I put on where I kind of got tingly was, and I didn't understand it until I did it. Yankee uniform and Old Yankee Stadium. To feel it from both sides, and it's not that I'm bringing it up, but it's like to feel it from both sides. To walk into Old Yankee Stadium wearing Public Enemy No. 1's jersey, and to wear it wearing the home jersey, like, you get it. You get it. You totally understand it. And it's like, and that's where it also helps you as a player to understand the boos and the cheers and the everything in between. Because you understand that these people, these fans, give me passion and caring over I don't care and lack of interest any day of the week. And with passion comes anger. They're usually hand in hand, and that's okay. Because like I said, players don't like to get booed. Anybody that says they don't hear it, they're lying. But again, like I said, by the time the fans boo you, like, the players have been booing them for at least 12 hours, if not 2 games earlier than the fans start. So don't ever feel bad for booing somebody.
Take note of that, everybody listening. Don't ever feel bad for booing a player, because they've already been doing it to themselves.
My dad used to tell me all the time, he's like, you're not, as far as getting mad at myself, he'd be like, you're not good enough to get that mad at yourself. And I was in the big leagues. And I was like, got a point. He's got a point. So I use that with my high school kids that I coach or whatever. I'm like, you don't put in enough time to get that mad at yourself when you're not successful. Tell my son that. Like, you're not that good to get that mad at yourself when you don't get a hit. So get over yourself. And it makes sense. But like I said, I think for the most part, they truly respect what we do and how we do it. I always said this, big market, people say it's hard to play in big market cities. It's really not. Just play hard. Just especially in Boston. I'll never forget my first game at Fenway Park. I played second base. I played second base for like 2 innings, and it was raining. We were playing the Blue Jays, and it was a left-handed dominant hitting lineup, and Derek Lowe's pitching, who gives up 3,000 ground balls. And I thought it was just one of those like, hey, can you play second base in a pinch? And I'm like, well, yeah, I've played second base in a pinch. Morneau came up with the Twins, and late innings, extra innings, slide over, play second, whatever, make it a softball game. It's fun, right? Cool. I didn't know that, like, he was going to start me there. So I look at the lineup, and, like, I used to see a 3 by my name. It's first base. I'm like, that says a 4. And I even took it to Tito. I'm like, Tito, is this right? He's like, yep. And I was like, you're trying to get fired? Like, are you trying to get fired? Like, I just got here. You want to get my car blown up, and you want to get fired 12 hours after trading for me. So anyway, and I'll never forget this. This sums up our group. Derek Lowe didn't have the greatest of years that year. When you compare it to his all-star years of prior, I guess that he still wasn't fun to hit. But I remember the game's about to start, and Derek turns around, and he screams it. He goes, "Hot doggy, you and me, just like Little League." And I was like, well, hell, if you don't care, I'll do my best. So he understood it, because I was out there like no spit, freaking out. Oh my gosh, I haven't played the infield second base ever in my life. But and I'll never forget, I turned over play in the first inning, and the first person that ran out on the field, like, Tito met me like on the field to bear hug me. And I'm like, you're hugging me because I just saved your job, both of our jobs with one play. So that's the kind of stuff that, like, you can't get anywhere. And like, it was, just to do whatever was asked. I think some of that it's not in today's game like it used to be, but just an amazing group of dudes that really, really, really enjoyed each other's company and it showed.
Yeah, which is really cool. And I feel like that's the stuff that fans don't always think about, is how important that clubhouse dynamic is and the group of players that you have, because you could have all the talent in the world, but you really do need that aspect of it in order to win a championship. And that's the part that not everybody sees, because everybody just sees the play on the field, but the behind the scenes aspect of that clubhouse chemistry is so important if you want to be a successful team.
And to Joe Cochran and Pookie and all those guys, the training staff, the support people, like they get left out a lot, and they shouldn't, because they allowed us to be like idiots, really. And just, I mean, if you didn't get to the field at 12:30 for a 7:00 game, like, you'd get to your locker, and the only thing that would be yours in your locker was your jersey, because you couldn't switch numbers. But like, if someone got 3 hits the night before, your pants were gone. And you're like, who's got my pants on? So you didn't even ask. You just went to someone else's locker and grabbed a pair of pants. And like, you look over and Manny's got my pants on. I'm like, Manny, the last thing you want to do is like put my stuff on your body, because the last thing we want to do is have you start hitting like me. We're all going to lose. So, wear your own pants. But Manny would grab a bat, or like Billy Miller's pants, or it was constant, like, just, you had to like hoard your stuff so they hide it if you didn't want anybody to take it. But that's just the way we were. And, carefree. And, I'll never forget Manny in game 1 of the World Series. That game, we were up a lot, and then the Cardinals came back, and Manny had the kick slide where he took out, 4 yards of sod. And Manny always tried to make me break in his gloves. He thought if I broke in his gloves, he'd win a Gold Glove. So Manny comes in, he's like, he slides and misses and tears up the ground, and he comes and puts his, now it's 8-8 or whatever it was, 7-7 late, and like, okay, this is not funny anymore. And he comes and sits down next to me. He's like, Dougie, the grounds crew hates my guts. I'm like, Manny, can you focus? Like, this is the World Series. Like, we can replace the grass. Like, you're messing with my Christmas now. Like, lock it in and do some Manny stuff out there, and like to get the lead back. But like, but that's Manny. That's how Manny was. That's how like relaxed that team was. Like, nothing ever got. I said it again. The only game I ever saw us really get angry was Game 3 against the Yankees, when we got blown out. And it wasn't really the score. It was just how we went about it. We didn't want to go out like that. But that's how that group could do a really good job of compete their ass off, but still crack a joke and be super funny and super intense at the same time. And it was a special mix. And like I said, the stars aligned for that team and that time in that city, having to do what had to be done. And that group was like, you can mix match the other ones, and I just don't think that team gets it done. I think that was the reason why that team was there, put together, different. And they just, like, I don't think a lot of teams could have done what we did.
No, definitely not. And that's what makes that team so special. And, that team was what felt like a team that was meant to do what they did. Truly, it just felt like such a special group. And I do want to ask you about your perspective on keeping that baseball and that whole story. Obviously significant, right? Last out of the World Series. Keith Folk, you mentioned him and just how solid he was on the mound during that whole run, and just breaking an 86-year curse. I mean, obviously nothing to no joke there. That was huge for the city of Boston. And it's cool to think about Red Sox fans who had lived through a lot of that curse, and that could have been their opportunity to see a championship, and they did see it. So can you just describe the thought process there?
Well, you start thinking about like the last out, right? You start thinking about your parents driving you to the ballpark at 6 years old. And like, holy cow, this is about to happen. And I didn't really ever think about, like, I wasn't thinking about like, man, I hope I make the last out. Like, it was weird until it got to be 2 outs. And it was like, oh my gosh, like this is over. And I never forget when the ball went back to Keith, and I was like, 2 hands when you're learning. I think I caught the ball 2 hands because I was like, I didn't want to drop it. I was like, I've made this play 3 million times in my life. And I'm like, I don't care. It never had this significance to it. And through all the pandemonium, I put it in my glove and I put it behind the Visqueen. And my thought was, I just didn't want it to end up in the cage balls bag or like wherever. So that's all done. And I'll give you the cliff notes as best I can. The next day we're in Fenway Park, and then there's those guys authenticating the ball, right? Everything from shoes to Kurt's sock to bats, whatever. Larry Lucchino's standing right next to me. And he's like, is that the ball? And the MLB was ready to authenticate it. I'm like, yeah, that's the ball. And he said, oh, that's cool. Like, he never asked for it. If he'd have said, hey, is that the ball? Can we have it? I'm like, here, take it. Whatever. And I said it on my son's life. If he would have just said, here, hey, is that the ball? Do you mind if we have it? I would have literally handed it to him. Never asked for it. Never. And then weeks go by, and Shaughnessy, which I didn't want to call him back because I knew he wanted to start something, wrote an article. The whole article was supposed to be about me and Kevin Millar's relationship, because at the time, both of us wanted to play every day. And how is our relationship friendship-wise? I'm like, we're fine. I'm like, we call each other a couple times a week. And it's like, where are you going now? Like, the rumor said he's going to Houston, or I'm going to Florida, or, that was or the Mets are looking for a first baseman, blah, blah, blah. So where are you going today? I go, we're fine. We're professionals. Kevin wants to play every day. I want to play every day. I respect the fact that Theo's trying to make both of us happy. I appreciate that. So anyway, the last 30 seconds of the conversation is, hey, you still have the ball? I'm like, yeah, I still got it. And he's like, well, I bet you that would fetch a pretty penny. And I'm like, okay, like, I'm sure I could put my kids through college. I didn't have a kid at the time. Like, okay, like, it was in tongue in cheek. And 2 days later, he's like, well, this story's going to run on Sunday, whatever. So blah, blah, blah. So I'm going to Bahamas by boat to fish on Friday. Get up 5 o'clock in the morning, go work out. Boom, I'll come back. My I've got like 68 text messages and missed calls. And I'm like, my first thought is, who died? Like, who passed away?
Yeah. So
I get it. And it's like, Doug won't give ball back. And I'm like, hang on a second. Like, time out. Like, what? Like, that's not what the article was supposed to be on. And that's where it all started. And then to boot it, go one better. We loaned it back to him. And then Lucchino calls my house. Doesn't call my house, calls my parents' house, because a hurricane went through, knocked out my house, knocked out the power. My son was like 6 days old, and he wants to talk about the ball. And I'm like, Larry, I'm sorry, buddy, but live outside your box. I got no power. I've got a 6-day-old baby with no place to stay, with a roof on, whatever. So I was like, call my agent. Well, he calls my agent like the Wednesday before Thanksgiving at like midnight. And my agent was like, it's the holidays, like, piss off. So like, come December, I go downstairs. I'm in Key West. I go to look at the paper. I never read the paper, never grab a paper, never grab a USA Today. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to grab one, have a cup of coffee. Pick up the paper, little side things on USA Today. I was like, Mientkiewicz to be, because my name sticks out like a sore thumb, right? It's like this long. So you can tell when it's on there. I'm like, Mientkiewicz to be sued for ball. I'm like, huh. Isn't that cool? I'm glad I picked today's paper to read, right? So it just was, and it's funny because like even now to this day, and it's at the end of the story, it's in the Hall of Fame where it belongs in the first place. And the only thing I will say was the conversation I had with Larry Lucchino was this, and I said this. I said, you want to charge people to come see the ball in the Fenway Museum, correct? He said, yes. I said, okay. I'll tell you what. Why don't can you take $1 or whatever amount you want? I said $1 out of every ticket you sell, give it to the Jimmy Foundation from the players. His exact quote to me was, we don't get told what to do with our money. So I was like, you know what? You can pick the choice words that I kind of relayed to him at that time. So that's what started the whole animosity back and forth. And long story short, I saw everything, right? People are saying you should go to the Hall of Fame. I'm selfish, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, look, I definitely, to sell that ball, it would have got a lot more than the Florida State tuition at the time. In-state Florida State tuition was like $3,000 at the time. Like if I'd have sold for $3,000, people would have lost their mind. But the idea of it is like, so I thought was like, okay, the Hall of Fame usually asks for stuff, right? So I'm like, people are like, give it to the Hall of Fame. I'm like, phone's sitting here. I'm like, they have my number. You can call me anytime. And they never call. So finally, I was like, all right, let me reach out to them. And they're like, we'd love to have it. I'm like, well, you could have said this 2 years ago and saved, because death threats and all kinds of nonsense throughout that time. But it's a shame that it went to that. But at the same token, mind you, I did catch Game 2's final out too. I had both of those. So which one did I give back? You never know. Read the book. I'm kidding. But yeah, so that's kind of like whole and it's funny, the urban legend people. I have people that do Fenway, tours, and like they go see Fenway Park and they'll ask about the ball. Like every person that's ever walked through Fenway that works there has a different story and what happened to it. I'm like, it's like an urban legend. It's like no matter how many times I tell the same one, it's it has a mind of its own. And the only thing that bothered me about the whole thing was like, there should be absolutely nothing negative about what just happened. Like there should be nothing negative. Like it should be nothing but positive. That 86 years is a long damn time to not win a championship. There shouldn't be any piece of negativity attached to this thing. And that's what I didn't like the attention, and I didn't like the fact that it was always brought up, and it was like, hang on a second. Because I know I didn't wear my ring for at least a year. I didn't want to. It's a bad taste in my mouth. So, but that's the only thing that I regret, that it brought some negativity to something that should have never had a second of negativity, that the history that was made.
Yeah, totally. Because if you think about it, really, it's more about the story of like what happened and how that happened. And that's what should have been the focus. And it felt like the focus was kind of shifted to something negative, and it just didn't really have to be,
For sure. I remember, like I said, the guy, they sent somebody in a Rolls Royce to my house. The guy came out with white gloves on. And I was like, this is okay, where's Ashton Kutcher? Like, am I punked right now? Like, where is he? Like, is there the camera in the corner? Like, what am I? I was like, this guy's serious. Like, this guy came out with these white gloves, and
wow, that's crazy.
And I said, it was nuts. I was like, and I joked, and that's when Ashton Kutcher with the show Punked was big, and I'm like, he's around here somewhere. I know he is. He's like, I feel like I was getting punked. I was like, this is not for real. And sure enough, it was real. That ball was on ESPN later that night. The guy with the white gloves. I'm like, hey, that guy. That's exactly the way the guy was dressed when he came to pick the ball up. So, yeah, it was.
Wow.
It was intense. It was a little crazy.
That is pretty crazy, but yeah, it's definitely kind of funny looking back on the whole thing now, probably, but it probably wasn't really that funny at the time.
No, it wasn't funny at all. And I said, when Papelbon said my dog ate it, I'm like, yeah, that shit wouldn't have flown in 2004. I said, that doesn't work. Or even Cornerico put it in his back pocket. I'm like, yeah, that doesn't work either, buddy. Like, trust me. Like, I set a precedent. Like I go, damn. You get crucified for missing the ball, and you get crucified for catching the damn ball too. So it's like, which one do you guys want? But I'm happy that it's out of my hands now. How's that?
Yeah, no, I think that's totally fair. I do find it interesting too. Former players who transition to the coaching side of things. My husband actually is a high school baseball coach too. So what advice would you give from a coaching perspective in terms of how to continue to get the most out of your players on the coaching side?
To me, I always try to do it in the 10 or 12 years that I did it in pro ball and 4 in high school and some USA stuff. You got to find out what makes the kid tick first. You got to find out personality traits. I learned that if you come at them right away and try to coach them too fast, they'll lose you. And you get the Charlie Brown teacher, right? They don't want to hear you. But I try to find out what makes them tick and finally get to know them personally, how to be able to not only encourage, but also, you poke the bear. How are you going to get him to work? And you always, it's like a relationship. It's like anything else. You and your husband, you have trust, right? You got to build trust. Same thing in coaching. You got to build trust. And once the trust is there, you can get them to do. I was lucky to coach a lot of guys in the minor leagues that are now superstars in the big leagues. And that trust never goes away. I still get texts from them. I still get, questions and look at this video. And, so that's the main thing. And it doesn't matter the level. It doesn't matter if it's a high school kid. It doesn't matter if it's a college kid. It doesn't matter if it's, the 18U national team or a kid that's in the big leagues. Like they want that trust factor to be like, okay, because when it's you or going through it, it's like the end of the world, right? When you're struggling, you feel like you can't do anything right. And there's always got to be that calming factor to be like, hang on a second, like you're fine. We're good. We're going to fix this. We are going to fix this. And then you are going to enjoy the success of it. And that's kind of the way all the great ones that I was lucky to be around, they knew when to put their arm around me and they knew when to stick their foot in my butt when I needed it. And that's a special trait that gets lost in today's world. I always felt like I could motivate the dead, and that's the reality. And I think that's what keeps me, it keeps my edge, and it keeps me, wanting to get better as a coach. So at the end of the day, it's about them. And that's the coolest thing. I said this a long time ago. As I was lucky enough to play 12 years, I was born to do this. I was born to coach. I was born to teach. I was born to mentor. I really enjoy it. I get more satisfaction out of seeing my kids get better than I did when I got better. So kudos to him trying, because high school level is not easy. It's not easy at all. The parents today are crazy. They're nutbags. Like they make it really hard. It's mind-blowing how crazy parents, don't get me started on, that's a whole other episode. But just, it's as long as you make it about them, and it's not easy to do. It's not easy to do. I've been hired and fired from organizations for caring too much about the players, just because that's how you get. I need to wrap myself into my kids, like all the outside noise, and whether it's a organization or parents or whatever, like I'm here to make these kids better. And that's what you hired me to do. So let me do it. But high school levels, bless him. Bless him.
No, it's tough. He definitely is really passionate about what he does, but there is definitely a lot of challenges that come with that.
Oh yeah.
To say the least.
It's really easy from behind the stands. It's really easy. It's really easy to play. It's really easy to coach from behind the stands. I'm like, hey, you know what? Y'all can come out here too. And the funny thing is, I got let go by the Tigers during COVID.
Yeah.
And my son was a 9th grader at the time. And I got introduced at some meeting like, hey, the new baseball coach at the high school is Doug Mientkiewicz. And I was looking around like, no. I stopped managing pro ball so I could watch my son play high school, not coach him. Yeah. So I got roped into that, and away we go. And holy moly. Yeah, it was and these coaches that can do it for a long time, God bless them. God bless them. As it's not the kids. The kids are the best part. I loved going to practice every day. I loved going to games, as frustrating as they were. It just was like it's either fans as a player sometimes, or media, and then there's parents as a high school. It's just some of them, man, they can screw some stuff up, boy. And I also try to help them too. That's what we talked about my podcast earlier. Like, I don't do all sports. I do, I'm part of a recruiting service for high school kids, and to try to educate parents and educate them like, hey, stop wasting money. Stop wasting money for this showcase and that showcase and this one. We'll lead you the right way to kind of understand, like, but you don't need to have your kid be sports specific at 9. Like, let them go play everything. I said, open up every major bio of baseball players, hockey players, football players. When they say their background, they don't say has only played football since the age of 6. They're like, no, he's run track, played baseball, played basketball. Let them go do other things, and like see what you'll figure out what you want to do. And there's always one thing leads to the other athletically, and you learn stuff on how when things aren't as easy. Basketball was that for me. When basketball was hard, it made me appreciate baseball even more because baseball was a lot easier to play for me than basketball was. But I learned a mental toughness, so I didn't like to lose in basketball, so I didn't take winning for granted when I played baseball. So there's all kinds of things like that I think today's world, they get so sports specific now, it's crazy.
Yeah, and you don't need to, like you said. And I feel like kids, it's better to be well-rounded when they're younger too anyway. And so kids who do play multiple sports, I think is a good thing. And even with the high school players, like he has so many players who play other sports. And I think that's good.
And you having coaches that will encourage it, not just say it, they mean it. That's a lot of coaches say, oh, yeah, we will love to have our guys play other, and then they penalize the kid for being late because he's still in basketball season. I'm like, practice what you preach. Don't just say it to the kids. And I always say this, anything. We talk about the ball, whatever, mixed messages end badly. When you communicate clearly and you follow through and follow what you communicated, most things run pretty damn smooth. When you start miscommunicating to each other, that's when problems start. That's when problems arise. And at the end of the day, these kids, they hate discipline, but they crave it and they need it. And I always tell, I had meetings, I don't do it anymore. I had meetings with the parents before the season started. Like, I'm going to be hard on Junior. I'm going to be hard on him, probably harder than you are. That doesn't mean I don't like him. That doesn't mean I'm mean. I said, they're not kids anymore. They make life-changing decisions every time they get behind the wheel of a car. They're old enough to handle me raising my voice to them at times. And when you hear anger, I hear passion. And I don't expect you to get me. And that's what kind of explains me to them before it starts. I don't expect you to get me. But I also understand that when I yell at your kid, it's only because I want the best out of him, and I've seen better than what I'm getting now. I had someone call the Florida High School Baseball Association on me how I coach my own kid. They're like, you have a problem the way he coaches your kid? He's like, no, I love the way he coaches my kid. I just don't like the way he coaches his. And I'm like, my son's a catcher. I'm hard on my catchers. That has nothing to do with the last name. It's more to do with the position he's playing. But thank you. My son seems fine. Like he's used to this. Like, he gets it. I said, but that's how crazy people are crazy. Baseball parents they're nuts. They're crazy. So God bless them.
Yeah, they totally are. But I totally appreciate that advice. For sure. He'll appreciate that. And I appreciate you for taking this time to come on here and chat with me. Definitely was awesome. Definitely a lot more that we could talk about too, but I truly appreciate you taking the time.
Of course. Thank you for having me.